Brooklyn Nets have fired their head coach. Now Jack Vaugh is out after a disappointing first half of the season. The Nets went into the All-Star break with a 50-point loss to the Boston Celtics. The Nets have only said that an interim coach will be named in the near future.
I am as shocked as you are at the amount of content I've been able to make on the Brooklyn Nets, even after the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving era, because it seems like the Brooklyn Nets made another huge move today, and a lot of Brooklyn Nets fans are happy about it, whereas some seem to be a little confused. So I'm here to explain everything. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, do the intro. My Super Bowl picks that I made in my content with the Patrick Mahomes free square didn't hit, but the one that I posted onto my story did hit, and you guys let me know how much money you made in my DMs. And now that the NFL season's over, we're officially directing our attention to the NBA. I give away my picks for free at the Flight Mike on Instagram, and right now when you sign up for Prize Picks, use promo code FlightMike to get up to a $100 deposit match when you sign up on Prize Picks. Or you can just use my link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Going into this season, the Brooklyn Nets were very optimistic about what they can do together as a team. And this applied to every member of the Brooklyn Nets. Whether it was Spencer Dinwiddie taking more of a leadership role, Ben Simmons giving copious interviews on how he's a new version of himself once again.
Good, I'm getting there. Just progressing every day, so yeah, I'll be back soon.
Even Mel Bridges seemed to have a lot of faith in Ben Simmons returning to form.
This is my guy. I got big confidence. I got big faith in him more this year. His back was messed up now, got surgery, he's getting back. But he loved the game, bro. I think he's in a good place. All of us, we're close. He's the one talking in the chat all the time, and we all with him. And obviously, we want him to score and stuff, but we ain't pressed about it. You just want to be him, be aggressive.
How do you find ways you can be a support system for him?
Just be there with him, man. Support him. Even if you struggle, whatever, that's cool. Wherever city we go hang out, go get dinner, whatever, get ready for the next one. I think that's the biggest thing, is just he could be confident enough to fail and know, we're there for him. You don't want nobody you feel that pressure every single time, oh, if I don't play well, these guys might not like me. Nah, for me, that's not the case. I'll just try to be there. I'm listen, bro, you struggle. We're here for you. We want to be there through the process of you shoot 5 middies in a row, you miss all 5, shoot the 6th one. You know what I'm saying?
But things didn't necessarily go according to plan for the Brooklyn Nets. And the reality of the situation was that this was a team that was in purgatory. A huge reason for this is the fact that they are still paying Ben Simmons maximum money to play like a player that belongs at the end of the bench. And this essentially has forced the Brooklyn Nets to try to build a team around Ben Simmons, but they've been struggling to do so. At one point, even considering bringing Ben Simmons off of the bench.
Yeah, I mean, when they tell me I can go, I'm able to play, even though I have the restriction. That's where I want to be. That's where I want to be starting. So I think I'm more useful starting than on the bench.
The good thing was that the Brooklyn Nets had all of these assets, all of these incredible players, and even a budding superstar in Mel Bridges that they could trade away and start rebuilding. But at the same time, they had no choice but to compete, because they traded away all of their first-round draft picks in the James Harden trade a few years ago. So you're pretty much in this situation where your team's roster construction is flawed because of the money you're paying Ben Simmons, so you can't really be competitive. At the same time, you can't really tank either because you don't have your first round pick, so there's no point in tanking. The worst part is, during the trade deadline, the Brooklyn Nets had offers for Mel Bridges, some of which were rumored to include up to 5 first round picks, and they even had a trade offer that included 2 first round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith. But alas, the Brooklyn Nets decided to stay pat, which is something that I really criticize them for, because despite Mel Bridges being awesome and really coming into his own on the Brooklyn Nets, alas, he turns 28 during the summer, and there isn't really a means of building a contender around him. But at the end of the day, the Brooklyn Nets made their decision. They didn't trade any of their players during the trade deadline, except trading Spencer Dinwiddie to the Raptors for Dennis Schroeder, if you want to count that, and trading away Royce O'Neal. But apart from that, the Brooklyn Nets are now trying to compete with the roster that they have. And if you're the general manager of this team and you don't think there's a problem with the way the team is constructed, then you clearly have a problem problem with the way this team is being coached. Brooklyn Nets are currently 11th place in the Eastern Conference, not good enough to even make it to the play-in. Good news is they're about 3 games behind the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. Man, Houston Rockets fans must love this. So in order for them to be successful, a huge change needed to be made. And it seems like the way they're gonna make that change is by letting go of Jack Vaugh, the head coach that took over for Steve Nash after Kevin Durant decided that he didn't want Steve Nash as his coach anymore. So according to Shams Charania and Adrian Wojnarowski, Brooklyn Nets have fired head coach Jack Vaugh. And on one hand, I'm kind of conflicted about this because I don't think Jack Vaugh was necessarily the greatest coach. He was incredible in the interim role that he was in once Steve Nash was let go, and I think he got an ample opportunity. There were some things he did that just really didn't make sense to me, but at the same time, he was placed in a bad situation to begin with. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you have Dorian Finney-Smith, Ben Simmons, Mel Bridges, and Cam Johnson all on the same team? At the same time, you had Spencer Dinwiddie and Cam Thomas. I could understand how it could get complicated to figure out a rotation there, but there are some things that were very easy to resolve in my opinion. I mean, Cam Thomas deserves more than 20 minutes per game, especially given how he was a microwave when he was on the court. But the thing that's just confusing to me about this is the Nets recently signed Jack Vaugh to a 4-year extension, and this is just following a typical Brooklyn Nets trend of consistently flip-flopping. I mean, you go all in on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in 2019. You double down on that by trading a plethora of assets for James Harden, and I don't think you guys remember this. The Brooklyn Nets were very deep before the James Harden trade. They gave up Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, 4 first-round picks, and 3 pick swaps for James Harden, only to punt on this trio when they played 16 games together after giving up that many assets. And I guess my concern for Brooklyn Nets fans is how it seems like the Brooklyn Nets never can commit to a particular direction and are consistently flip-flopping over and over and over again. And at a specific point, I'm just gonna lose faith in Sean Marks altogether. Now, I don't want to make this sound like a bad decision because I could understand why you would fire Jack Vaugh. To be honest, you don't really have a choice here. It's just the constant flip-flopping from one direction to another. One second you have a dynamic duo of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and an incredible amount of depth. Next second you decide to punt on that depth so you could bring in James Harden. When you decide that it's not working with James Harden and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you decide to trade James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons, thinking that could save Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. When that doesn't work out, you decide to trade Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. It's just a repeating cycle over and over again, but Shams says this is why the Brooklyn Nets decided to fire Jack Vaugh.
Multiple players, including Spencer Dinwiddie, who is now departed, Mel Bridges already there. They were pretty vocal behind the scenes for months now about how the offense was running. They felt like a lot of what Jack Vaugh was running was being run improperly, without structure. Jack Vaugh came into the year, said, we're going to run a free-for-all offense. And the team, from what I gather, has been pretty bonded on the fact that, developing a hierarchy was important. And when they went into the training camp, a lot of their offense was built around Ben Simmons and him playing at the 1 and him playing at a high level for them. But throughout the season, he has been unavailable. And so this is now the 3rd coach under Sean Marks since 2016. Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash, Jack Vaugh. You had a Jack Vaugh interim appearance multiple times during that stint as well. Who are you building around on this roster? I think Jack Vaughn's firing is just the tip of the iceberg for all the questions the Nets have.
At the same time, Mel Bridges says that moving Cam Thomas into the starting lineup is going to be incredible for Mel Bridges' career because he could finally play off of the ball, which is something he did a lot when he was on the Phoenix Suns.
And it helped that Cam Thomas got moved to the lineup because, now play the ball. So
at the end of the day, I understand the decision. I 100% understand moving on from Jack Vaugh, and I can understand why the Nets felt a change was needed. Now, typically whenever a coach gets fired in the middle of the season, there's a huge question about whether or not the next individual that's going to step up is going to be an upgrade or a downgrade for the team. Sometimes you have an interim head coach come in for maybe a few games, kind of like Joe Prunty did between the time where Adrian Griffin was fired and Doc Rivers came in, which, by the way, we made a video on how horrible horrible of a mistake Doc Rivers has been for the Bucks so far. I'll leave it in the end screen for you guys to check out after this video. But in this particular instance, it looks like the primary contender to be the interim head coach at this point for the Brooklyn Nets looks like he could potentially be a huge upgrade. Before Spencer Dinwiddie got traded from the Brooklyn Nets, he had this to say about one of his assistant coaches.
I mean, these guys play at the highest level, who obviously has won championships. And yeah, sometimes you need that other voice, that kind of stern voice. You know, everybody has the uncle that might be on them a little bit tougher than your pops, right? You kind of tune out your pops sometimes, right? But your uncle steps in and keeps you on track. So I think it's kind of that vibe. And obviously him and JV both have the utmost credibility because they actually played in the league and have done it at the highest level.
But it wasn't just Spencer Dinwiddie that said this about Kevin Ollie. It was also Dennis Smith Jr. who had this to say about Kevin Ollie when the Brooklyn Nets were capable of holding the OKC Thunder to 47 first half points.
Defensively, what's been the magic touch for you all?
Great scout by Kevin Ollie.
And it seems like the Brooklyn Nets had somebody in mind when they decided to move on from Jack Vaugh. For those of you guys that don't know who Kevin Ollie is, he's an individual that won the 2014 NCAA tournament with the UConn Huskies, but even before that, Kevin Ollie was actually teammates with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden during the latter part of his career. A former player in the NBA who is currently in negotiations with the Brooklyn Nets to be their interim head coach. According to Shams Charania, Kevin Ollie has emerged as the leader to be the Brooklyn Nets interim head coach, and the sides have begun discussions. Woj would repeat this sentiment, saying ESPN sources the Nets are talking with assistant Kevin Ollie on the interim head coaching job and are expected to talk more today. Ollie, who had a 13-year NBA playing career, won the 2014 NCAA title as UConn's head coach, and joined the Nets this season after 2 years of running the Overtime Elite. I honestly want to applaud Kevin Ollie's decision making. He could have been the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. He decided to turn down that job opportunity, stay with the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe he knew something was brewing in Brooklyn. This is a former player that is relatively young when it comes to a head coach. He's 51 years old with tremendous experience at multiple levels, and this was a great opportunity for him. It's just at a specific point, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, you went from being one of the top teams in the East to a team that doesn't even have the right to rebuild or the right to compete for a playoff spot. Because at the end of the day, the Brooklyn Nets are consistently changing their mind on what they're doing, and they force themselves into purgatory as a result of it. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this move, especially if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.